Hi guys! This video will show a couple more examples for 6.3 doing the formal recursive formulas. So just like in 6.2, we're going to practice going from the formula to the sequence and then from the sequence to the formula. Okay, so for the first one, we've got a formula here, so we need to use this to generate the sequence. And so basically we're interpreting these symbols. So remember U sub 1, that is the symbol for the first term. The subscript 1 means first term. So we know that our first term is 10. So I can write down 10 for our first term right away. Okay, then I want to know, how do I fill in the rest of the sequence? And that's where our rule comes in. So remember that U sub n plus 1, that's our next. And U sub n, that's the now. Okay, so this is saying to get the next, you take the now, you multiply it by 2, and then you add 6. So to get next, multiply by 2, then add 6. So that's like instructions or a recipe for generating the next term in the sequence. So let's do it. Our now term, our first now term is 10. So to get the next term, I'm going to take 10 and multiply it by 2, and then add 6 to it. So that becomes 20 plus 6, right? So 26. Okay. Then to get the next term after that, I take my now term, which is now 26, and I multiply it by 2, and then I add 6 again. So 2 times 26, that is 52. So we get 52 plus 6, which is 58. Okay, let's do it one more time. So our now term is 58 this time. So to get the next, we're going to do 2 times 58, then add 6. 2 times 58 is 116, so we get 116 plus 6, which should be 122. Okay, so we started by writing down the first term, and then we used our little recipe or our rule to generate the next term, the next term, the next term, one by one. All right, that's it. Okay, let's now practice going from a sequence to the formula. So remember, we need two parts. We need the start and the rule. The start is really easy. It's just whatever your first term is. So we know that this is our U sub 1. That's the first term. So in our formula, we're going to have U sub 1 equals 48. Okay. Now we need to figure out, how do we get the next term? So 48 to 54, 54 to 60, 60 to 66, what are we doing? It's pretty easy to see from these three that we're adding 6, and we can check 48 to 54, that's also plus 6, and 66 to 72 is plus 6. So we're always adding 6. So we know that the next term is the now term plus 6. Okay, let's write that in our symbols. So our symbol for the next term is U sub n plus 1. Then our symbol for the now term was U sub n. And then we want to take our now term and add 6 to it. I want these to be black so everything matches. Good. Okay, that's it. That's all we need to do. All right, let's try another where we start with our formula. So again, this is telling us that the first term is 1. U sub 1 is the first term, so the first term is 1. So I can write that down in my sequence right away. I know my sequence starts at 1. This is U sub 1. Okay, now I want to know from 1, where do I go? Where does the sequence go from there? How do I get the rest of the sequence? And that's where our rule is going to come in handy. So the rule says that the next term is equal to the now term squared. So I take the now term, I square it, and then I multiply by 3. So to get next, square, then multiply by 3. So that's our instructions or our recipe for generating the next term. Okay, so let's do it. Our first now is 1. So to get the next term, I'm going to square that and then multiply by 3. I want to do 3 times 1 squared. Okay, 1 squared is 1 times 3 is 3. Okay, so now I'm at 3. To get the next term, we're going to do this again, but our now term is 3. So I'm going to do 3 times 3 squared. Okay, 3 squared is 9, times 3 is 27. Okay, let's do it one more time. So we're going to do the same thing, but with 27. So we're going to do 3 times 27 squared. 27 squared is what? I need a calculator. 27 times 27, 729. Then we need to multiply that by 3. We get 2,187. Okay, so there's our sequence. So we started by writing down our first term from U sub 1. We interpreted this rule, and then we applied that rule over and over again to generate the terms of the sequence. Okay, last example, we're going to write another formula. So again, we start by just writing down what our first term is. So there's our U sub 1. So we can start by saying U sub 1 is -3. We always get that for free. If you don't know anything else about recursive formulas, you can always get your U sub 1 equals. You can always get that. Okay. Now we want to know what our rule is. How am I getting from term to term to term? So how do I get from -3 to 6, 6 to -12, -12 to 24, 24 to 48? We might see pretty quick that we're multiplying by 2. 3 times 2 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12, 12 times 2 is 24, and so on. But we also have this every other negative. So that means we're multiplying by a negative number. So -3 times -2 is +6. +6 times -2 is -12. -12 times -2 is 24. And 24 times -2 is -48. So we're always multiplying by -2. So our informal rule could be next equals -2 times now. And if it helps you to write out the informal rule or to say it this way, do that, and then you can just replace your next with U sub n plus 1 and replace your now with U sub n. That's why we learned to do this first, because it helps us write with the formal symbols. So we're going to do just that. I'm going to take this rule that I wrote down informally, replace next with our symbol U sub n plus 1. And I'm going to keep everything else the same, so -2 times, and then I'm going to replace now with our formal symbol, which is u sub n. Okay, that's it for the examples. Please go complete your check for understanding, and please let me know what questions you have about this. Thank you so much for watching and being wonderful people.